Hello and welcome to Money Life. This is Sucheta Dalal. Today I'm going to talk about the implications of the second wave of COVID on people like us. When I say people like us, I mean people who have savings, who pay taxes, who think that our social standing and the insurance that we have takes care of us and our families. The virus has shown us that it's not true. It is horrific. The impact has affected so many of us, and we find that it is absolutely difficult to cope. We've had cases where I've seen one tweet which said, out of a family, extended family of 20 people, only 2 are surviving, of which 1 is still impacted by COVID. We've seen young children, pre-teens, having to grow up overnight because both parents had COVID. We've seen children orphaned because the parents are not there anymore and they are left all alone. So the family has savings and everything is blocked. So I'm going to talk about what LIC would call Zindagi ke baad bhi. Okay? What happens after you? People are waking up, they are realizing that they have to organize their finances for their families, and while doing so, what I find is that we are stumbling on a whole bunch of what are tedious irritants in normal times but can be traumatic in a pandemic. So most countries have understood this. They understand that people are locked down at home and have made provisions for it. For instance, just one example is an Australian act which says that temporarily, they passed a legislation temporarily allowing people to make their wills audiovisually without having to sign them. It's called the COVID Omnibus Emergency Measures Electronic Signing and Witnessing Regulations. It is absolutely utopian to even think about it in India. This is a government that forgot that there are people who will be turned destitute overnight when they imposed a hard lockdown in March last year. People were left without food to eat. So this government, thinking about us, planning ahead, they haven't even allowed, we had a Kumbh Mela, we had elections, but we haven't had parliament functioning because they said that is not required. The government doesn't want to answer questions. So nothing, to my mind, is going to change unless we educated Indians wake up from our slumber, begin to assert our rights, and stop being timid about financial terrorism. That is the word that is unleashed on us by thoughtless rules that are being thought up, dreamt up by 5 financial regulators. Yes, we have 5. Most of them are not accountable to anybody, least of all us, the stakeholders. At Money Life, we drew attention to one key issue, which is how our savings were being blocked in the middle of a pandemic and even before, because we hadn't updated, or we couldn't update, or hadn't got warnings about updating Know Your Customer documents. So banks were blanket freezing accounts. We fought, we sent a memorandum, we sent a change petition which was signed by over 11,000 people. And we were fortunate that RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das listens. So on May 5th, the governor responded to our effort and ordered banks to stop freezing customer accounts on account of KYC updation. This is only till 31st of December. There's a lot more in our memorandum. I would urge you to go and look at it. But even that wasn't good enough, because for another 8 days, banks have been twiddling their thumbs, most of them, because they're waiting for official directions from RBI, which happened yesterday on May 13th. That's how long they took to amend their master directions, and now hopefully bank accounts will be frozen. This happens everywhere, and this is just one issue we have handled. We have still said that there are others, like the fact that there are no standard operating procedures. This is something which is like a theme which runs across regulation. So there's a fatwa issued by a regulator, there are no definitions, there are no SOPs, and so intermediary regulatory entities who have the power over our money, our shares, our mutual funds, make up rules as they go along. I'll give you an example of what the work we did on bank nomination. This is again going on for a long time. When COVID happened, people have woken up to the need for planning their finances. So many of them are rushed to make wills. The first 101 about financial hygiene is that you fill in your nominations for bank accounts, savings account, FDs, your provident funds, insurance, your apartments in cooperative societies. Believe me, it's not as simple. Most people are so lazy that they don't do it. They don't ensure that it's updated. Now, we find that that's not good enough because that is something that you have done as a provider. Now, let's look at what happens when people begin to claim it. And looking at the number of deaths, this is what your heirs and your children or your people very dear to you are going to face when they want to claim that nomination. Now, a nomination by the law is very simple. It allows the nominee to take charge of those assets. The process is simple. There's a death certificate. You have to prove identification to say you are the valid, legitimate nominee, and that's it. So a bank is supposed to pass on that money to you. You may or may not be the legal heir. That is decided separately, but a nominee is eligible to take charge of that money, mutual funds, or wherever, the insurance where you are a nominee. Now, we discover that public sector banks have been making their own rules. While most private and foreign banks have simple basic procedures, you're the nominee, death certificate, identity, you are able to get assets. Some banks are demanding wills, are demanding succession certificates, probates, whatever they want as they go along. This is not us saying it. Ms. R. Bhuvaneshwari, a retired general manager of Bank of Baroda, very kindly and generously devotes her time to counsel people at Moneylife Foundation, which is our sister entity. And she began to look at it when somebody came to us and said, why is a bank, public sector bank, harassing me so much when I should get the money? Because what is the point in the long drawn out process of no objection certificates and succession certificates? That is what a nomination is supposed to avoid. On checking with other banks and other bankers, we discovered that the rules are made up by them because RBI hasn't bothered to issue SOPs on this. So a couple of banks have been forcing, if it's a senior citizen who has passed away, they force the nominee to open a fixed deposit and block the money for 3 years. Obviously, they do it in case there are disputes, but it's none of their business. When there is a nomination, it's supposed to be passed on, but this is what banks are doing. All this has to be done by the Customer Services Department of the RBI, but there is no pressure on the regulator to listen to us, the savers, taxpayers, so they don't give a damn. They are not answerable to us. This kind of recurring issues happening everywhere. Difficulties are coming up. So Pune-based Rishabh Talera, for instance, wrote a letter to the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, copied me. He has asked for an amendment to the Banking Regulation Act and other legislations to permit more than one nominee for movable and liquid assets of individuals, trusts, companies, and other entities. The reason for it is very obvious, because if the person who has the money and the nominee both pass away, and it has been happening so often in the pandemic without giving them time to think, because the virulent virus affects you so suddenly and so badly, there's no time to do anything. It leaves businesses in a disarray, salaries can't be paid, families are struggling to pay hospital bills. So he wants the government to do something about it. He even has asked for motor vehicles to be owned jointly by more than one person to avoid hassles, because he says transfer to a legal heir is no less than a nightmare. Now, his concerns are genuine, but it's not so simple to eliminate red tape, especially for motor vehicles, because there are some legal obligations on the part of the owner for misuse of the vehicle or when there are accidents. But the thought is correct, and we need solutions, or we need that red tape eliminated so that every aspect of our lives, we talk about ease of living, but every aspect of our lives is just tied up in red tape and a nightmare. Now, the noted RTI activist Subhash Agarwal has a much better solution to all of this, and he has been lobbying, pushing, canvassing this in his own hard-hitting manner for more than a year. He's written to the RBI to say that nomination rules have to be changed to make way for what is called successive nomination. What does successive nomination means? And he wants this for all government savings schemes and other funds. He claims that this is already done by Life Insurance Corporation of India. I'll explain in a minute what it means. And he also points out that often enough, a senior citizen couple, usually the husband will name the wife as a nominee and vice versa. Sometimes they pass away very close to each other and there is no nominee. And the whole process in India of making any claims is so long, and God help you if you are in one of those presidency jurisdictions where you need a probate. This can go on for decades, and it is also very expensive. So if you're in that position, if there is a successive nomination, what it really means is that you have a nominee. When something happens, the money devolves or goes first to the nominee who's there. If that nominee has also predeceased the account holder, it should go to the second nominee and the third nominee after him if the second nominee also doesn't exist. This is quite simple, and I can attest to the fact that Mr. Subhash Agarwal's reservations and apprehensions are genuine. For 6 years, I was part of the Investor Education and Protection Fund, which was the first of these funds set up by government bodies to get all the unclaimed dividends and interest on fixed deposits into a pool, which was well over 1,000 crores at that time. I saw that despite our pleadings, no effort whatsoever was made by the government to trace the heirs and to give the money back. Now the names are put up on the website. There's a IEPF, Investor Education and Protection Fund Authority, and a bunch of firms have started a business of looking at the names, finding who is a possible heir, going to them, and then developing an expertise in this absolutely tedious process of making those claims. And the fees that they charge are huge. It's 25 to 50% of the sum that you're supposed to get. So suppose you've got shares or dividends worth say 10 lakhs, you have to be prepared to give away half of it. And since you didn't know, it's like bonanza for you. You don't have the energy or the know-how to follow the tedious process, so you end up paying it. This is unfair, and this practice is being followed by every regulator. So SEBI has a fund which has a few thousand crore of unclaimed mutual funds and the dividends on it. The RBI has a fund, Depositor Education and Awareness Fund, which is thousands of crores. In fact, the total amount involved will be over 25,000 crores. And I'm only talking about Ministry of Corporate Affairs, SEBI, RBI, and maybe the insurance regulator. The Provident Fund is separate. The money there is enormous, the Public Provident Fund. Why does this happen? Because we in India are a patriarchal society where very often the man of the house does not even bother to inform his wife or his children about the investments that he's made. In joint families, people sometimes want to hide things from each other, so they don't tell each other where things are kept. In fact, there are cases where there is a will and nobody knows that there is a will or where that will is hidden. Mr. Agarwal wrote to the RBI and asked them to consider successive nomination. Typical of the RBI, maybe because he's a known activist, he at least had the courtesy of a reply. What did they say? They pointed to the sections of the Banking Regulation Act 45ZA, 45ZF, and told him why it couldn't be done. The point is, a good, empathetic customer services department would have listened, would have discussed, and would have found ways. They don't need to, because they are not obliged to do anything for us, the stakeholders. As Mr. Agarwal, I said earlier, has pointed out, LIC has done this. There is a form 5194. If it is filled, you can have successive nominations. So the first nominee, a lot of times term insurance is taken years ahead. So you don't know when the person is going to die and the nominee is going to get the insurance amount. Quite likely that the first nominee has predeceased the policyholder. So the second nominee and the third nominee can get it. Incidentally, since we're talking about how nobody does anything, I need to point out that LIC is the only one which has been proactive and in fact has issued a press release just about a week ago to make things easier during a pandemic, and it is not insisting on a municipal death certificate. It says a death summary containing the clear date and time of the death issued by government, ESI, armed forces or corporate hospitals, countersigned by a LIC Class 1 officer or a development officer with 10 years of experience. along with the cremation burial certificate is enough. Only organization that has done something proactive. Now contrast this with Mr. Agarwal's attempt to get successive nomination even looked at or listened to by the RBI. Instead of applying their mind, he was sent a bureaucratic reply. So remember, it is not LIC alone that has successive nomination. The Public Provident Fund has something different, and mutual funds. What they do is they allow more than one nominee. So you can have a joint nominee, 2 or 3 people, but upfront the account holder has to specify the ratio in which the money will be divided among those nominees. In mutual funds, the mutual fund holder has to say how many units will be given per nominee. So it's not that there is no provision. RBI can easily look at successive nominations. Question is it willing to? Forget about even an emergency measure like an ordinance. It has to open its mind to listening and thinking rather than batting back replies from well-known right-thinking activists by saying it's not possible to do it. Now, what happens when successive nomination facilities don't exist? There's a tedious legal process, there are disputes, and like I said, the probate is expensive and can take up to a decade. So wills, succession, heirship certificates, all of them need reforms. Nominations for banks need successive nomination. Provident funds and others need some accountability, where this is money which is, like I said, in excess of 25,000 crore. All the regulators should be made accountable and told to inform the finance ministry every year what attempt have they done to trace the heirs, what are they doing on the money. This money is not theirs to sit on. This money belongs to people like us, investors, tax holders. It is our parents and others who have saved, worked hard, and this is their money which should rightfully come to us. It cannot go into the giant maw of government. Regulators should have a department that traces nominees. We should not have to part with 25 to 50% to specialized agencies outside, and the finance minister should have a segment in her budget speech which talks about what has been done about this money. More importantly, the government has to start thinking of removing this red tape and making our lives easier. Ease of living is not a slogan. It is not a ranking. It is about doing things practically. But nothing is going to happen until we, the privileged class, never spends even 5 minutes thinking about this, wake up to the fact that these are necessary changes. Hopefully the pandemic is opening our eyes. We have to get together and make a concerted attempt, which means the next time we're sending out a mailer, or when you're reading this, please write to us. We take up these issues through Moneylife Foundation. Write to foundation@moneylife.in. Give us case studies, give us examples with details so that they become a part of the memorandum and one can begin to take this up with regulatory authorities. When we ask you to participate in class action suits or at least sign an online petition, please join, because it is meant for you and I. Let's get real. Let's wake up. Let's stop thinking the government is going to take care of our interests. There's one lesson from the pandemic. It is that the government will not do anything. We have to be, as the Prime Minister likes to say, Atmanirbhar, and this is a part of it. If you agree with what I said, respond, become a subscriber, and spread the word. Thank you.